I've been able to come up with a very small rig for my Blackmagic. But for a very long time, that was really hard to do. Luckily, I have this gorilla style concept now, but with Sony, it's just so much easier. It's smaller, and you're able to just slide on the handle, which also has the audio, and you're good to go. Okay, so you guys may not know, but I am currently in South Africa. I've been here since the early parts of November, and I am shooting BTS for a feature film that will be out next year. Now, I talk a lot about BTS, and I just did a video about why it's so important, and this is a prime example why. All expense paid trip to live in South Africa for 2 months, shooting BTS for a feature film. Like, I don't know how else to tell y'all why y'all should try to get into BTS, but whatever. Outside of that, today, I want to talk to y'all about the FX3. So I've had the FX3 as a B cam. Originally, the client wanted me to use my Blackmagic, but I also thought this was a great opportunity to get and play with the FX3 because I was very interested in the camera. And so today I want to talk to y'all about the pros and cons with the FX3, my first impressions of what I think. It's been about a month, or it's about to be a month, December 1st. And I just want to just get into it. So this is more of a talk type of thing because I know you all have already seen videos about the FX3. So this is more of like my preference coming from the Blackmagic 6K, what I like and don't like about both cameras. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that I love about the FX3, of course, would be autofocus. Now, there's no autofocus with the Blackmagic, so being able to use autofocus, especially for the film that we're shooting, even if you're not shooting BTS and you're a solo filmmaker, being able to use autofocus is always going to be ideal. I don't understand why people think that that doesn't make you a filmmaker if you are using autofocus, because for me, it's all about workflow and what makes the workflow easiest. Now, because I do have the Blackmagic and I, shoot with Aries, I shoot with Komodos and things like that as a DP, none of those are gonna have autofocus, so I have learned to pull my own focus, which is actually really, really fun, but in certain circumstances, if it's a fast movement, a boxer fighting, somebody on a bike, anything like that, it's very hard to pull. And if you're a DP, it's great because you have a first AC, but even with that, it can still get complicated. So if you're a solo filmmaker, which a lot of you on YouTube are, having autofocus is always just going to be ideal, and Sony has the best autofocus in the game. When I had my Sony A7 III and my 6300, the autofocus was great, and they always up the ante. Every single year they come out with a new camera, so I don't even have to get into all of the details of autofocus. Y'all should already know autofocus is great. The second thing I like about the camera, of course, would be the ergonomics. It's so much smaller than my Blackmagic. Literally, it's so much smaller than my Blackmagic, and it doesn't take so much to rig up. There were times I wanted to just throw my Blackmagic out of the window because of the rigging. Now, recently, because I'm shooting a film and you gotta learn to adapt, I've been able to come up with a very small rig for my Blackmagic. But for a very long time, that was really hard to do. Luckily, I have this gorilla style concept now, but with Sony, it's just so much easier. It's smaller, and you're able to just slide on the handle, which also has the audio, and you're good to go. I love the ergonomics of it. It's just so sleek. So it's just the handle feels really good. It feels good in my hand when I'm shooting. So I love that. And then I know a lot of people who do have the Blackmagic 6K, they talk about using it on a gimbal. Now, I haven't been using my gimbal, and I don't use gimbals as much. With the Blackmagic, I use the Easy Rig, but I have just heard how hard it is to balance on a gimbal. And so if you are wanting to use a Ronin S, it is a lot harder and more complicated to use with the Blackmagic as opposed to using it with the Sony FX3. It's way better to use because it's like a small mirrorless in a sense. And so the ergonomics is great. Another thing I like is a flip screen. It already has a flip screen. Now, because I have the 6K Blackmagic, it doesn't have the flip. Now, if I was to get the Pro, it would be different because the Pro has a bigger screen, which is great, and it's a 5-inch screen. It's huge. But with the 6K, it doesn't have a flip. And so being able to already have a flip and not have to put a monitor, which is additional accessory on the camera, is great. I have pretty good eyes, so most times when I'm shooting with this camera on set, I'm only using the flip screen. I'm not adding a monitor or anything. I'm really keeping it small and compact and tight. So I love that aspect. Another great aspect when it comes to the FX3 would be the low light. Like, I know Sony has always been great with their low light, but when I tell you, we've been shooting so many nights. So having both of these cameras is great because I can shoot the Blackmagic in the daytime, and as it starts to weed into night, and then I can shoot with the FX3 at night. So we know both of them have dual native ISO. With the Blackmagic, it is 400, I think, and I think it is 3200. And there is still a little bit of grain when you get up to the 3200. With the FX3, the native is 640 and 12,800. So the fact that it already goes up to 12,800 and I have not seen grain when it comes to the 12,800 is freaking amazing. I can't hate. It is by far amazing. And because we shoot night shoots, it's completely dark. Now, they are lighting based off what their cameras are going to be shooting in, the look that they go for. And so I try to make sure that my settings are close to theirs. But being able to use that 12,800 just kind of puts me in just such a different ball game. And I also have a Canon 24-105, and so the f-stop is a 4. So being able to use that 12,400 just works better with the Sony. The low light is just freaking amazing. Like, I can't even lie, it's way better. So that again is something that I really, really, really love with the Sony FX3. Now we're going to get into the cons and things that I don't like about the Sony that I absolutely adore in my Blackmagic, which has been making it hard to figure out what I want to do with these cameras. So the first con when it comes to the FX3 is shutter angle. It does not have shutter angle. Now, it may not be a big deal to y'all, but that's so important to me. Now, when you're using mirrorless or any camera that is not a cinema camera, you're going to be working with shutter speed. So 50th of a second, 120th of a second. But when you're working with cinema cameras, you're working with shutter angles. So 180 degrees, 172 degrees, which to me is a little better. And so, like I said previously, they're shooting on ARRIs, and they're shooting a lot of times with just different shutter angles. And I like to, especially shooting BTS. Now, even other films have shot with random shutter angles that aren't standard. So like 180 degrees is like the standard. That's why even in shutter speed, if you're shooting 23.976 or 24 frames per second, they say double it because that's the 180 degree. Now, for me, what I've noticed just from DPs who want to just kind of think outside the box, and even on this film, they're shooting with a non-regular shutter angle. And because I like to match my settings to that, being able to have the Blackmagic and just type in the shutter angle that I want to go to is amazing. I don't have to do the math of like what that would be with the shutter speed. And it's just so much easier. Like, I love it. And so if you're working with, if you want to shoot something as a DP, or you're doing behind the scenes for a film and they're shooting with 163 shutter angle, then how can you figure that out with shutter speed? And with the Blackmagic, you can literally just type in 163 and it gives you that shutter angle, and then you can change the frame rate to whatever frame rate they have. And so that's really one of the things that I love about using my Blackmagic. Another con with the FX3, of course, would be false color. Now, I make videos about this, I talk about this all the time. False color is my favorite tool to use by far. It's the best way to get accurate exposure. And so not having that and having histogram, I'm not a fan of histogram. I feel like it exposes for the overall composition and like shot, but it doesn't expose for skin tones. And like normally, because I'm a documentary filmmaker and most times I'm interviewing someone, I like to nail skin tones. Even when I did the Dell commercial and I was shooting Yara and I was doing behind the scenes, I still used false color to nail her skin tone. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna use their lighting, so I don't have to worry about that. I really just wanna make sure that the skin tone is right, so when I color it, I'm not trying to pull and push anything. So for me, false color, not having that in the body of the camera is really hard, because with the Blackmagic, you literally just go and click false color. With the FX3, you have to use histogram, or you have to use their app, or you have to use a monitor in order to use false color, which is just all additional things, right? So then at that point, you're rigging, which is like the feature purpose of having like this small compact camera. Another con when it comes to the FX3 is the menu setting. I absolutely hate the menu setting by far. On the Sony FX3, I feel like the A7 III had a better menu setting than its FX3. And with the Blackmagic, no one can really beat the menu setting. It's like by far one of the best menu settings ever. Like it's like just a click of a button and you got everything that you need. And I don't even know how to explain it, but the menu settings, like if I'm on set, I'm not trying to scroll through all these different things to get what I need. Like Blackmagic is like, boom, you got what you need. You need a LUT on top of it, hit a button. Oh, you need shutter angle, hit a button. Shutter speed, hit a button. Like you want a clean feed, hit a button. You want focus assist, hit a button. Like you don't have to like scroll through and try to find what you need to get everything that you're going to need while you're on set. And like, again, when it's about workflow, that's important. So a lot of these might sound minute or small, but like when it comes to workflow, these things are very important. I'm really big on workflow. Like how quickly can I get to what I need without this camera like interfering with that? So that really is it. Like both of these cameras are great. There's no camera that's better than the other. For all of my film stuff, I still like using the Blackmagic because I feel just overall the image is just beautiful. Like I just feel like it's something about the sensor that makes the 6K just worth having. But I'm loving using this FX3. I want to continue to play with it outside of the BTS that I'm shooting, but like actually shooting films to really kind of see what I think about the camera. And so when I get home or to LA, I want to shoot an interview just to kind of feel, because I feel like it's a lot sharper. And I feel like I would have to really get my diffusion and things like that to really make it look cinematic or filmic. And I feel like the 6K kind of comes right out the sensor looking that way. So that's one of the things I want to test. I also want to test the editing and like how the files are. Are they too big to edit? Because it's been very smooth for me personally editing my Blackmagic files in Premiere. So that's another thing that I want to test. But these are just my first impressions. Again, I would love to keep both of these cameras, but I'm also thinking about getting an FX6, but I love how smaller this camera is and then just keeping a Blackmagic. So they both have been doing great. They both have, you know, their own pros and cons and their strengths and their weaknesses. So again, there's no camera that's better than the other. It's really what you need for what you do. And for what I do on a regular basis, the Blackmagic is great. But for these guerrilla style on the go solo filmmaking things, when I'm just trying to be more fast paced and get some things out, of course the FX3 might be a better camera. So let me know your thoughts about both of these cameras. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank y'all so much for watching. Again, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm here for another couple of weeks. And so I'm just gonna be continuing to test these out. I'm using it now and I have a quarter Pro Mist on there. Let me know your thoughts of how it looks. Please y'all, make sure that you are subscribed. We are almost at 10,000 and I wanna keep producing dope videos for y'all. So thank y'all so much for supporting and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.